I am a coach and an alum of Girls on the Run. Kids today carry a lot of stress, from school pressure to social isolation to overuse of devices. We create a space where girls can connect, build confidence, and learn skills like managing emotions, setting goals, and speaking up. Each child's experience is different, and families need support. I'm proud to be part of a comprehensive solution to youth mental health. Get involved today at empowerourfuturecoalition.com.
Hey, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of The Smart 7 is brought to you by Sainsbury's, where you can save big on festive favourites with Nectar prices. With Christmas just around the corner, it's more important than ever to find value for money on your festive shop. And if you want to be the host or hostess with the mostess, you need Christmas magic from Sainsbury's. That means great discounts to make your festive season truly magical. For example, this week you can get 3 for 2 on all Sainsbury's party food with Nectar prices, including taste the difference treats like 8 mini Wagyu beef cheeseburgers, 8 crispy chicken bayo buns, or 12 crispy mushroom tartlets. You can shop in-store or online and save big on festive favourites this Christmas with Nectar prices at Sainsbury's. That's good food for all of us. This offer's for 18 plus, terms and conditions apply. Offer ends 31st of December, 3 for 2 on all Sainsbury's party food, cheapest product free. Nectar required, available in-store and online, excluding locals. Delivery fees may apply and subject to availability.
It's Saturday, the 20th of December. I'm Ciara Evans, and this was a week that saw a terrifying attack on Bondi Beach. The EU failed to unfreeze Russian assets for Ukraine. Former PM Rishi Sunak at the COVID inquiry, and Rory McIlroy crowned BBC Sportsperson of the Year.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
But not the news.
Sunday saw not one but 2 mass shooting events on opposite sides of the world. 2 people were killed and 9 injured in a shooting in the US at Brown University, but that story paled in comparison to a brutal attack in Australia on Bondi Beach. The beach was packed with thousands of people when 2 gunmen opened fire over a prolonged period, killing at least 15 people, including a child, and injuring dozens more. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese addressed the nation.
An attack on Jewish Australians is an attack on every Australian, and every Australian tonight will be devastated on this attack on our way of life.
It appeared that the attack targeted an event celebrating the start of the Jewish festival of Hanukkah, and one of the first confirmed dead was English Rabbi Eli Schlanger. There was widespread condemnation of the attack, which has been labelled a terrorist incident, with condolences expressed by King Charles, Donald Trump and Israeli PM Netanyahu, who warned Australia has not done enough to tackle anti-Semitism. Local Sydney Rabbi Levi Wolf says the Australian Jewish community needs support.
There has been a terrible amount of anti-Semitism in the world right now, and we felt a lot of that here too. And unfortunately, when we allow things like that to go unchecked, these are the things that inevitably do happen.
Australia struggled to cope with the aftermath of the horrific Bondi Beach terror attack on Monday, as Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said a father and son duo with extremist links were responsible for the attacks, with a homemade Islamic State flag found in their car. The firearms used in the incident were all legally held, and lawmakers have pledged to tighten gun laws. Jamie Hymes from the Australia, Israel and Jewish Affairs Council says the events have seriously concerned Australia's Jewish community.
Since October 7, people are getting more frightened. They're starting to wonder if there actually is a future for the Australian Jewish community here. Some people are talking about moving to Israel where it's safer.
Meanwhile, Tory leader Kemi Badenoch said that anti-Semitism is on the rise and that more needs to be done to counter extremism.
We also need to be very honest about the threat that we face. What we saw in Manchester and in Bondi Beach was Islamic extremism. We need to do everything we can to decontaminate this poisonous thinking from our countries.
Wednesday saw the first funerals take place for those killed in the Bondi Beach attack. Mourners gathered to mark the death of British-born Rabbi Eli Schlanger, with tributes describing him as one of the highest and holiest souls. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese visited the victims in hospital, including the man whose attempts to tackle the gunman has made him a hero in Australia and in his home country of Syria.
We are a brave country. Ahmed El Ahmed represents the best of our country. We will not allow this country to be divided That is what the terrorists seek. We will unite, we will embrace each other, and we'll get through this.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has announced that his government will be cracking down on hate speech in the wake of Sunday's attack on Bondi Beach. 15 people died and dozens more were injured before police killed one of the attackers and arrested the other, who has since been charged with 59 offences, including murder and terrorism. The Prime Minister says there'll be new powers to cancel visas for those who spread hate and a task force to tackle extremism in schools, which will include a focus on anti-Semitism. There's also a proposed new federal scheme to buy back guns and reduce the amount of legally held firearms in circulation. As funerals have been taking place this week, the UK and the Commonwealth's Chief Rabbi Ephraim Mirvis has travelled to Sydney to express his sympathy and solidarity.
The whole community gives us hope. The resilience and the fortitude is absolutely enormous. And seeing the floral tributes, thousands of those floral tributes, just lets us as Jewish people know we're not alone.
The Australian PM also announced a National Day of Reflection on Sunday and asked Australians to take part in a minute's silence to commemorate the victims.
We invite people across Australia to light a candle at 6:47 p.m, exactly 1 week since the attack unfolded, as a quiet act of remembrance with family, friends or loved ones. We're asking all Australians to observe a minute of silence and talking with media organisations about that as well.
This week saw the Home Office unveil new plans to tackle violence against women and girls with a focus on rape and sexual assault. The new strategy, which was formally launched on Thursday, includes having specialists investigate units in every police force in England and Wales by 2029. There'll also be a new budget for undercover units working online and an upgrade of protection orders designed to cut back on domestic abuse. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says despite the plans being pushed back 3 times already, the government is committed to making a difference against what she called an epidemic of violence against women and girls and to providing consistent support across the country.
It's a postcode lottery at the moment in terms of the standard of service you're going to get when your allegation is being investigated by the police and whether that is going to lead to charges ultimately and hopefully a successful prosecution. We want to turn that around. That's why we do think it has to be a national programme of making sure that these teams are rolled out.
Speaking on Thursday, as the strategy was launched, Prime Minister Keir Starmer gave a personal commitment to deliver on the government's pledge to cut violence against women and girls by half over the next 10 years.
This is a real priority for the government and a real priority for me. I'm determined that we're going to halve violence against women and girls. Really difficult to do, but we are absolutely going to do this.
Statistics show that 5 million people were victims of violence or sexual offences in the 12 months to March, and it's been described as an epidemic. Domestic Abuse Commissioner Nicole Jacobs says that there may be need for more resources if the target is to be met.
My greatest concern is how much we are really investing in the resource, the funding it takes to pull this off. There's funding announcements within this strategy, but essentially what they boil down to is the status quo.
April saw a unanimous Supreme Court ruling that a woman is defined by biological sex under equality laws, but the court also warned that trans people are entitled to protection under discrimination legislation. The impact of that decision falls to the Equality and Human Rights Commission to decide on what the policies and guidelines should be across England, Scotland and Wales. The EHRC has sent a draft of the new guidance to the government, and the BBC is reporting that it suggests single-sex spaces should only be open to people of the same biological sex. Marianne Stevenson is the new chair of the EHRC, and she said that businesses are going to have to make changes, particularly when it comes to bathrooms.
Nobody is expecting there to be a toilet police, but equally if there are situations where there are complaints about regular problems, then people might need to kind of improve signage, improve explanations, make sure they've got alternative provision.
The Code Inquiry continued its investigation into the pandemic on Monday with a module looking at the economic impact of the events of 2020, which interviewed Rishi Sunak. The former Tory Prime Minister was Chancellor at the time when the pandemic hit, and he described his anxiety in the early days about whether the UK would be able to fund itself as the nation shut down. He also described a government that was not prepared for remote working, with ministers needing help to get set up on Teams, and the discovery that the Chancellor's office at number 11 didn't have enough sockets. He spoke about the fear of the unknown and the speed at which events moved.
Looking back at it, slightly benefited from the fact that there wasn't really time to panic, there wasn't really time to worry. You just certainly my approach to it individually was you just had to focus on the problem in front of you, run at it, solve it best you could, get on to the next one and just keep going and not let it consume you.
Chancellor Rachel Reeves got good news this week as the UK's inflation rate fell sharply, down from 3.6% to 3.2%. The Chancellor was out and about on Thursday spreading a bit of Christmas cheer as the Bank of England then moved to cut interest rates by a 0.25 percentage point. It'll be good news for mortgage holders and it's a positive sign for economic growth, which Rachel Reeves was keen to capitalise on.
It's welcome news for families and businesses that the Bank of England have now cut interest rates 6 times since the general election, taking interest rates to 3.75% at the lowest in nearly 3 years.
Sunday saw Ukrainian President Zelensky arrive in Berlin for crunch talks on peace in Russia's ongoing war. Strangely, the Russians weren't at the talks, with Trump's envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner presenting the Russian position following their meeting in Moscow with Vladimir Putin. Even before the talks started, a key aide to the Russian President Yuri Yushakov said that Russia will refuse any changes to the plans it has proposed.
I think that the input of both Ukrainians and Europeans into these papers will hardly be constructive. That's the problem. There's going to be some points in there that will be completely unacceptable for us.
The talk saw Zelensky joined by top aides and by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The Ukrainian president said that if agreement can't be reached in Berlin, Ukraine will not give up pushing for peace.
But if peace negotiations fail or pressure on Russia ends, it's like running a long-distance race, a marathon. We need to pull ourselves together, find another path, and do everything possible to end this war.
The head of MI6, Blaise Meritwell, called out Vladimir Putin on Monday, accusing him of dragging out negotiations over Ukraine. Her remarks came as Russia continued its attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure to increase pressure on Ukrainian President Zelensky as peace talks continued in Germany. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer appeared in front of the Parliamentary Liaison Committee on Monday morning to make the case for increased defence spending for the UK as the threat from Russia ramps up.
For too many years now, pretty well all European countries have not done enough on defence and security, and we need to step up in terms of not just spend, but capability and coordination. The threat from Russia is very clear, very real. It's not just in Ukraine.
The PM then departed for Berlin when the peace talks between the US and Ukraine concluded before a separate meeting with EU and European leaders. A statement from the German government on behalf of the leaders welcomed what they called significant progress and added that a European multinational force would be involved in supporting Ukraine and helping to maintain a potential future ceasefire. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says that the time has come for a deal to be done.
We must reach an agreement at the European Council meeting. I consider this to be a key issue for our ability to act within the European Union, and we must resolve it now.
Thursday saw Ukrainian President Zelensky in The Hague, not on war crime charges, but instead to sign a new treaty which is intended to establish a way for Ukraine and its citizens to file claims for damages against Russia. Zelensky, along with the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Dick Schoof, and the EU's Foreign Policy Chief, Keir Callas, all gathered to sign the document under the watchful eye of the Secretary-General of the Council of Europe, Alan Berset. He says it's important that Russia understands that there are consequences for its actions.
Accountability cannot be a footnote to peace talks. Accountability is a central aspect of any peace plan. The Council of Europe has no drones, no missiles, but it has the force of the law.
The Ukrainian president also addressed the Dutch Parliament on his visit and spoke about the peace plan, which he says is due to be presented to Russia within days. He says every detail matters in the proposed plan and warned that it's critical that Russia is not rewarded for its aggression.
Every Russian war crime must have consequences for those who committed them. We hope the Tribunal for Russian aggression will truly begin its work for everyone who wants peace in Europe.
Wednesday saw Russian President Vladimir Putin hold his annual meeting with his defence ministry, but there was no sign of any progress towards peace. Instead, the Russian leader was warning that his special operation would be fully completed by either diplomatic or military means, and that Russia would, in his words, liberate its historical lands on the battlefield. His remarks come in advance of a Thursday meeting of EU leaders, which should finally see a decision on whether or not to use billions of frozen Russian assets to assist Ukraine. Putin was particularly scathing about European leaders, calling them little pigs and suggesting they were talking up the chances of war with Russia for their own benefit.
People in Europe are being deliberately frightened with talk of an inevitable clash with Russia. Leaders are not acting in the interests of their countries or their people, but chasing short-term personal gains or serving narrow elite interests.
Ukrainian President Zelensky continued this week-long European tour on Thursday as he attended a critical EU funding meeting in Brussels. The meeting was another attempt to resolve the issue of whether or not Ukraine can access the hundreds of billions of frozen Russian assets. Hungary, Slovakia and the Czech Republic have been blocking the deal, and late into the night the EU announced that they would instead provide a $90 billion loan to Ukraine. Zelensky says it's not just the money though. He's still waiting for clarification on what US security guarantees will look like.
I have one aim: to get an answer for the question, what will the United States of America do if Russia comes with aggression again?
US and Russian officials are due to meet again this weekend in Miami, but there's been no indication that there's any softening of the Russian position. And Vladimir Putin was scathing in remarks on Wednesday about the little pigs in Europe. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says it's critical that the alliance remains united.
Putin has to know that after a peace deal, if he will try to attack Ukraine again, the reaction will be devastating. And this is exactly how we are designing these security guarantees.
It was another tough week for the NHS as resident doctors announced they would be going ahead with a 5-day strike starting on Wednesday. Both Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Health Secretary Wes Streeting have been applying enormous pressure to the British Medical Association in a bid to get the strike cancelled or postponed. They're concerned about the tidal wave of flu, which has put the NHS under extreme pressure in the run-up to Christmas. But a vote by members rejected the latest offer with 83% saying the strike should go ahead. The Health Secretary said it's a high-risk decision.
The BMA have chosen to strike this week, not only to cause maximum impact and damage to the NHS, but choosing to do so at a time when there is the maximum risk to patients. I think that is irresponsible, and I think it's dangerous.
This week also saw a new report published this week by Health Watch England, which shone a spotlight on the ongoing crisis in British dentistry. The report shows that people are having to travel more than 100 miles to get treatment, or in some cases are going abroad or turning to self-treatment to cope with dental emergencies. The report has spurred the government into action, and Health Minister Stephen Kinnock announced a new plan on Tuesday, which will see the NHS dentists paid more to handle emergency and complex treatments. He says it's the first step towards a new era and couldn't resist a pun about tackling deep-rooted problems with NHS dentistry. The British Dental Association are not amused, however, and Shiv Pabari, the chair of the BDA's General Practice Committee, says the new scheme won't help.
Until we address the chronic underfunding and the system, which I call it buy one, get one free, it just doesn't work. I mean, this contract's been, everybody that's worked in over the last 20 years have said, look, it just doesn't work for patients or for practices.
Wednesday saw resident doctors hit the picket lines once again for a 5-day industrial action aimed at squeezing a further pay rise out of the government. The British Medical Association says its members have been suffering wage deflation since 2008 and that it's having an impact on members and limiting recruitment into the profession. This is the 14th resident doctor strike, and Health Secretary Wes Streeting sounded like he's run out of patience.
We are doing everything we can to minimise the disruption. There is going to be disruption. This is the worst time for these strikes to be taking place for the NHS, for frontline staff and for patients.
The arbitration service, ACAS, has offered to assist in reaching a compromise between the two sides, but neither side seems inclined to accept the offer. The striking resident doctor on the picket lines told Sky that they're tired of being portrayed as bad guys.
I refuse to live in this parody of 1984 where doctors and nurses and people caring for the public are somehow the villains.
Still to come in the Standout 7 in association with Metro, good news for students and tributes to 2 Hollywood greats.
Right after this. Hey, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of The Smart 7 is brought to you by Sainsbury's, where you can save big on festive favourites with nectar prices. With Christmas just around the corner, it's more important than ever to find value for money on your festive shop. And if you want to be the host or hostess with the mostess, you need Christmas magic from Sainsbury's. That means great discounts to make your festive season truly magical. For example, this week you can get 3 for 2 on all Sainsbury's party food with Nectar prices, including taste the difference treats like 8 mini Wagyu beef cheeseburgers, 8 crispy chicken bayo buns, or 12 crispy mushroom tartlets. You can shop in-store or online and save big on festive favourites this Christmas with Nectar prices at Sainsbury's. That's good food for all of us. This offer's for 18 plus, terms and conditions apply. Offer ends 31st of December, 3 for 2 on all Sainsbury's party food, cheapest product free. Nectar required, available in-store and online, excluding locals. Delivery fees may apply and subject to availability.
I am a coach and an alum of Girls on the Run. Kids today carry a lot of stress, from school pressure to social isolation to overuse of devices. We create a space where girls can connect, build confidence, and learn skills like managing emotions, setting goals, and speaking up. Each child's experience is different, and families need support. I'm proud to be part of a comprehensive solution to youth mental health. Get involved today at empowerourfuturecoalition.com.
Welcome back.
Labour ticked another election manifesto pledge off the list on Wednesday as they announced that the UK will rejoin the Erasmus scheme from 2027. Erasmus sees students from all levels, from university to apprenticeships, able to spend time studying in another country with no extra fees in a reciprocal agreement, and the UK had exited the scheme as part of Brexit in 2020. The government says it will provide opportunities for up to 100,000 young people in the first year at a cost of over £500 million, but the new deal includes a discount from the EU. Shadow Foreign Secretary Priti Patel described the move as a waste of money, but Nick Thomas-Symonds, the government's EU Relations Minister, says the scheme has real benefits.
I'm looking forward now to making sure that people from all different backgrounds can access the Erasmus Plus programme. I'm determined to drive forward that work in the months ahead.
Thursday night saw the announcement of the BBC Sports Person of the Year awards. The ceremony was live on the BBC from Salford, and Serena Wegman picked up Coach of the Year. The European Ryder Cup team won Team of the Year, while Thierry Henry was presented with a Lifetime Achievement Award by his kids. The big one, though, is the Sports Person Award, and there was a galaxy of sporting talent competing, including Rory McIlroy, Luke Littler, Chloe Kelly and Lando Norris. The prize is voted for by the viewers, and there was no surprise when Rory won after his titanic struggle to win the Masters and his role in the Ryder Cup.
Being a dad, it makes the losses a lot easier, but it also makes the good moments even more special, so to share that with Erica and Poppy. They've watched me go through all of this just like, I'm sure a lot of the public has, and I feel like everyone's been on this journey with me, and, I could feel everyone with me on that day.
Monday morning brought tragic news from California as the death of actor and director Rob Reiner and his wife, producer and photographer Michelle Singer-Reiner was announced. Police found the two dead in their home, and a family member has been arrested on suspicion of the murders. Michelle Singer-Reiner was a well-known photographer who took the cover picture of Donald Trump for his Art of the Deal book, but that wasn't enough to stop the US president posting a deranged rant about the death of the couple. Rob Reiner was an activist as well as an actor, director and producer, and spoke out often against Donald Trump. He and his wife were actually due to meet Barack and Michelle Obama on Sunday night, and the former First Lady appeared on Jimmy Kimmel's show on Monday night to defend her friends.
What they have always been are passionate people in a time when there's not a lot of courage going on. They were the kind of people who were ready to put their actions behind what they cared about. And they cared about their family, and they cared about this country, and they cared about fairness and equity. And that is the truth. I do know them.
Rob directed some of the most famous movies of his era, including When Harry Met Sally, Stand By Me and A Few Good Men. His production company, Castle Rock Entertainment, also produced shows like Seinfeld. He spoke to 60 Minutes about legendary rock mockumentary This Is Spinal Tap. Rest in peace, Rob and Michelle.
Apparently Van Halen had a rider in their contract, no brown M&Ms. So some roadie had to sit there picking out the brown M&Ms. It's crazy. So we looked at that and we said, there's a scene.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world. Hey, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of the Smart 7 is brought to you by Sainsbury's, where you can save big on festive favourites with nectar prices. With Christmas just around the corner, it's more important than ever to find value for money on your festive shop. And if you want to be the host or hostess with the mostess, you need Christmas magic from Sainsbury's. That means great discounts to make your festive season truly magical. For example, this week you can get 3 for 2 on all Sainsbury's party food with nectar prices, including taste the difference treats like 8 mini Wagyu beef cheeseburgers, 8 crispy chicken bayo buns, or 12 crispy mushroom tartlets. You can shop in-store or online and save big on festive favourites this Christmas with nectar prices at Sainsbury's. That's good food for all of us. This offer's for 18 plus, terms and conditions apply. Offer ends 31st of December, 3 for 2 on all Sainsbury's party food, cheapest product free. Nectar required, available in-store and online, excluding locals. Delivery fees may apply and subject to availability.
I am a coach and an alum of Girls on the Run. Kids today carry a lot of stress, from school pressure to social isolation to overuse of devices. We create a space where girls can connect, build confidence, and learn skills like managing emotions, setting goals, and speaking up. Each child's experience is different, and families need support. I'm proud to be part of a comprehensive solution to youth mental health. Get involved today at EmpowerOurFutureCoalition.com.